Primary 1. Today we're going to open our student anthology to page 66. We're going to find Unit 7, our new story. It's a fantasy story. Go ahead and open your pages now. Unit 7, Fantasy Story. The title of our story is in red, Ruby Nettleship and the Ice Lolly Adventure. Oh, that's a long story. Let's try again. Ruby Nettleship and the Ice Lolly Adventure. And it's written by Thomas Doherty. Are you ready to read with me? This is Ruby Nettleship. She likes climbing and sliding and running and jumping. And when she isn't doing any of these things, she is dreaming of adventures. In the park by Ruby's house, there was an old, falling apart playground. The slide didn't slide, the roundabout wouldn't go round, and the sea had lost its saw. The only thing that worked was the swing, and there was always a big queue of children waiting to swing on it. One hot afternoon, Ruby and her friends had been waiting for ages. When, crash, the swing came unswung. Now there was nothing to play on, and the children began to wander home. "Come on, let's go," called Ruby's friends. But something about the playground made Ruby want to stay. Without the other children, the playground felt sadder than before. "No one cares," mumbled Ruby to herself as she tugged at the broken swing. "If this was my playground, there would be loads of brilliant stuff for everyone to play on." But just then she was interrupted by the tinkle of an ice cream van. It drew up right next to Ruby. Not many people today, remarked the lady in the van cheerfully. The swing broke, explained Ruby. Well, that won't do, said the lady. Here, have a nice lolly. And she handed Ruby a lolly in a green wrapper. It's my last one. Ruby took the lolly. Thank you, she remembered to say. But when she looked up again, the ice cream van had vanished. That's strange, thought Ruby, turning her attention to the lolly. It was green like the wrapper, but it seemed to glow from the inside. She took a bite. It tasted delicious. So she took another one. The letters P and L appeared at the end of the lolly stick.
We will now open our activity book to page 66 and 67. We're going to stop reading here because it's quite a long story. So go ahead and stop here and grab your activity book. Let's talk. Look at the pictures from the book above. Is it a real place or a fantasy land? And what can you see? A castle, a dragon, a rocket ship, some planets. So are these real? No, right? They're pretend, they're imaginary. They're creative stories where you're imagining what can happen. It's a real place or a fantasy land? Correct, fantasy.
Number 1, write the date at the top. Today is Tuesday, the 14th of April, 2020. So you're going to write 14, line 4, line 2020.
Remember, your
Letter
sentence
A,
is going
read
to
and
start
respond.
with
Number
the children.
one, why did
When
the children go home?
Because.
So we need to go back to our story and remember what happened that made the children go home. And we have our friend saying to us, the answer is on page 68 of the anthology. So open your book and find the answer and write it on the line.
Number 2, what happened in the story on page 71? Tick the sentences that are true. So perhaps you want to go back and read page 71. What happened? The ice cream van sped off. The ice cream van vanished. The lolly seemed to glow, or the lolly suddenly turned green. They're going to tick the sentences that are correct. We'll now open our anthology and continue with the story. Good work working on your activity book. Let's finish with the story and see what happens. Ruby ate the rest of the lolly quickly and held the stick to examine it. It read, "Plant me. I wonder what will happen if I do," thought Ruby. No one was about, so she pushed the lolly stick firmly into the ground, covered it up, and waited. Almost immediately, Ruby felt a rumbling in the ground beneath her. She watched in amazement as a multicolored shoot pushed its way up through the soil. It shot up into the air, nearly hitting her on the nose. Once it had grown to twice Ruby's height, it sprouted new branches that twisted and turned into a beautiful swing. "Wow!" cried Ruby. She climbed aboard and launched herself into the air. As Ruby started to swing, more shoots appeared. They quickly sprouted ladders and poles that blossomed and bloomed with swings and slides. Ruby was swinging so high by now that she could see over the whole city. "I bet no one else is having this much fun," she thought to herself. Then Ruby had an idea. As if it had read her thoughts, the playground flowered over the whole park and began to spill out into the street. The first thing Ruby did was to pick up all her friends and all the other children who lived nearby. "This way!" shouted Ruby, and with that they headed off towards town. On the way, they dropped in at the zoo to see if the animals wanted to come out and play. After that, they visited the supermarket and made a giant trolley roller coaster. By the time they got into the center of town, the playground was full to bursting. Even the grown-ups had climbed out of their cars, put down their shopping, forgotten about work, and joined in the fun. Soon the whole city had ground to a halt. "Now what?" wondered Ruby. Word cloud. Launched, cue, sprouted, tinkle. We finished for today. If you haven't already, you can work on your spellings. If you've done your spellings already, congratulations, you finished your English for today. Great work.